In the heart of Lagos, Nigeria, where city streets hum with the sounds of life and ambition, Oluwaseun Adeyemi lived a quiet life that contrasted sharply with the chaos around him. 34 years old, soft-spoken, and often described by his colleagues as humble to a fault, Sohn worked as a systems analyst for a local tech firm. His days were structured. Wake up early, commute through packed streets, spend 8 hours behind a computer, and return home to his modest one-bedroom apartment in Surulere. But when the world outside went dark and the city's noise turned to distant hums, Sohn's world lit up, not with nightclubs or friends, but through the glow of his phone screen. Sohn wasn't the type to chase relationships in person. Past heartbreaks and a few bitter dates had left him skeptical. But online, there he found comfort. A world where words mattered more than appearances and emotions traveled faster than distance. He had profiles on Facebook, Instagram, and a few dating apps, but it was Facebook that brought her into his life. Eking Wamboe. That was the name on the friend request. Her profile picture was striking. A dark-skinned woman in a yellow dress, standing under the Nairobi sun with a warm smile that felt real. First, Sohn thought it was spam, but her message came quickly after. Hi Sohn, I stumbled on your profile. You seem different. He almost ignored it. Almost, but curiosity or fate made him reply. Hi, you're from Kenya. That was the spark. Eking told him she ran a small fashion boutique in Nairobi's central business district. She claimed she had Nigerian customers often and had always admired the culture, the food, the music, the strength. That last part made Sohn smile. He wasn't used to being admired. Their chats stretched into the night. From Facebook Messenger to WhatsApp, they soon became daily companions. Eking seemed to know exactly what to say. She asked about his family, his job, his dreams. She told him about her childhood in Kisumu, her struggles moving to Nairobi alone, and how she wanted to build a life with someone serious, someone real. Sohn, once guarded, began to let his walls down. By the second month, their relationship turned romantic. She called him pet names. She sent photos, sometimes playful, sometimes intimate. Sohn was enchanted. When he was sick for a few days and didn't reply to her texts, Eking recorded a heartfelt voice note. You scared me. Don't ever go silent like that. You matter to me, Sohn. More than you know. Nobody had said that to him in years. His friends noticed the change. He smiled more. He stayed glued to his phone. When Tunji, his closest friend, joked about his Kenyan wife, Sohn just chuckled. She's different, bro. She's not like the girls here. She listens. The idea of visiting her came up during a late-night call. Eking had hinted before, but now she was more direct. Why don't you come here? Let me show you my world. You'd love Nairobi. It's beautiful. Like you. Sohn hesitated. He had never traveled outside Nigeria. But Eking made it feel so simple. She offered to host him, promised she would take time off work, even said, if things go well, maybe you won't need to go back. Those words settled into his mind like a whisper he couldn't shake. A few weeks later, he applied for his Kenyan visa. In his journal, Sohn scribbled something he'd never admit out loud. Maybe this is how it begins. The kind of love that changes everything. He had no idea that what began with emojis and late-night laughter would soon unravel into the darkest chapter of his life. The late August heat in Lagos was stifling, but Sohn barely noticed. His focus was entirely on the countdown, 4 days to Nairobi. His visa had come through. The flight was booked. Lagos to Nairobi via Addis Ababa, landing at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. For the first time in years, Sohn had something to look forward to beyond work. Something that wasn't routine. Something that felt alive. He didn't tell many people about the trip. Just his younger sister, Toyin, and his best friend, Tunji. Everyone else would assume he was traveling for a tech conference or vacation. But Tunji wasn't as excited. You sure about this, bro? He asked over drinks the night before Sohn's flight. You haven't met her. What if it's not what you expect? Sohn smiled, brushing the warning away. I've seen her on video. She's real. She's not some catfish scammer. I felt more connection with her in 6 months than with anyone I've met face to face. Tunji raised an eyebrow. Just promise me you'll stay smart. No hero moves. Son nodded, but his heart was already halfway across the continent. On the morning of his flight, he wore a white t-shirt, jeans, and sneakers. Nothing flashy, just a man chasing love. His suitcase held simple clothes, a few gifts for Aking, including a gold-plated necklace he had custom engraved with her name, and his most prized possession, Hope. He texted her before boarding. Son, about to take off. Can't wait to see your face. Aking, I'm shaking. You're really coming. Safe flight, my love. Those words looped in his mind the entire flight. When the plane finally touched down in Nairobi, the sun was setting over the city. The air was cooler than Lagos, the skies clearer. Son stepped out of the terminal, scanning the crowd. But she wasn't there. He dialed her number. After 3 rings, a male voice answered. Hey, you Son. Yes. Who's this? I'm Brian, Aking's cousin. She couldn't come. She's stuck at the shop. I'm here to pick you. Son blinked, thrown off. She didn't tell me someone else would be here. Brian was tall, wiry, with dreadlocks tucked under a cap. He held a sign that read SA and seemed casual, friendly. She told me to take you straight to her. She's been pacing all day. Super excited. Son hesitated, but eventually followed him to a black Toyota Vitz parked outside. As they drove through the streets of Nairobi, Son stared out the window, trying to soak in the city Aking had described so many times. The Matatus decorated with wild graffiti, the buzzing roundabouts, the endless street vendors. But something felt off. They weren't heading toward the city center. The roads grew bumpier, the buildings less polished. Eventually, Brian turned into a narrow, poorly lit road lined with apartment blocks. They stopped in front of a worn-down building in Kaole, one of Nairobi's lower-income neighborhoods. She's up there. 3rd floor, Brian said, handing Son his bag. No elevator. Son climbed the steps slowly, nervous and excited all at once. When he reached the door, it opened before he knocked. There she was, Aking, the same face from the video calls. Tall, dark-skinned, glowing eyes, and that unforgettable smile. For a brief moment, the world aligned. She rushed into his arms. You're here. You're really here. They kissed. Son forgot every doubt. The apartment was modest. A couch, a small TV, 1 dim light bulb. No pictures on the walls. No sign of the boutique owner lifestyle she'd described. You live here? He asked gently. Just temporarily, she replied. My lease ended. I'm moving to a better place next month. For now, it's ours. They spent the evening laughing, drinking, catching up like old friends. She prepared ugali and stew. Son wasn't used to the taste, but he ate anyway. She poured him a drink, a mix of beer and something local. He grew drowsy faster than expected. His body felt heavy. His eyelids drooped. That drink was strong, he mumbled. It's okay, she whispered. Rest. I'll be right here. He laid down, and the world went black. He didn't know that would be the last night he would ever see the sky, or that the woman he flew 3,000 kilometers to love had opened her door not to welcome him, but to seal his fate. When Son woke up, it was still dark. His head throbbed, like a hammer pounding from the inside out. His mouth was dry. His limbs felt weak. The ceiling above him spun slowly like a carousel. He wasn't sure if he had passed out for minutes or hours. He tried to sit up, but something felt wrong. The apartment was eerily silent. No sound from Aking. No footsteps. No light. Just shadows crawling on the cracked walls and the dim flicker from a street lamp seeping through the curtain. Aking? He croaked. No answer. He pulled himself up from the mattress on the floor. The sofa where she'd been sitting earlier was empty. Her bag was gone. Her jacket gone. Even the half-drunk bottle of beer on the table was gone. Confused, he stumbled toward the door. It was locked from the outside. He knocked, then banged. Nothing. His phone. He reached for his jeans, still draped over the arm of the sofa. Empty. No wallet. No passport. No phone. Panic began to rise. Had he been robbed? Before he could process the thought, the front door creaked open slowly. It wasn't Aking. A different man entered. Broad-shouldered, hooded, ice-cold. And behind him another. Lean, wiry, with a scar over his left eyebrow. Neither spoke. Son backed away instinctively. Where's Aking? Who the hell are you? The man with the scar closed the door behind him with a soft click. The larger man stepped forward, cracking his knuckles. You ask too many questions, he muttered. Then everything happened at once. Son tried to run, but they were on him in seconds. A blow to the stomach, another to the face. He fell to the floor, gasping, coughing blood. They kicked him, pinned him, tied his wrists with a charger cord. He screamed, hoping someone in the building would hear. But the walls of Kaol were used to screams. No one came. The last thing Son saw before blacking out was a glint of silver. A blade, held not by the men, but by Aking, standing silently behind them. Hours later, the sun rose over Nairobi's eastern outskirts. A neighbor, a middle-aged woman on her way to work, noticed something odd. A trail of blood leading from the third-floor apartment to the stairwell. She knocked. No answer. She called the landlord, who called the police. What officers found inside shocked even the most hardened investigators. The mattress was soaked in blood. The floor was smeared with handprints. Under the bed, Son's lifeless body, curled unnaturally, throat slit. His wrists were bound tightly. There were bruises on his arms, face, and chest. The room had been cleaned, but not well enough. A partially torn Kenyan 1,000 shilling note stuck to the blood on the floor. A plastic bag lay abandoned in the corner, filled with duct tape, rope, and empty bottles of alcohol. A crime of passion? Robbery gone wrong? Or something more organized? Detectives quickly realized this wasn't a simple domestic dispute. It was a setup. Son had been lured, drugged, robbed, tortured, and murdered. And the woman he had flown across Africa to love? Gone. So was her cousin, Brian. Outside the building, word spread quickly. A Nigerian man, killed by his Kenyan girlfriend, neighbors whispered. She brought him here, then vanished. Some claimed they had seen her that morning leaving in a boda-boda motorcycle taxi, wearing sunglasses and a backpack. Others swore they saw her at the corner shop buying bleach 2 nights earlier. The police collected fingerprints, took statements, and released a bolo be on the lookout for Faith Aking Wanjiku, age 27. What they discovered next made the case explode. Detective Elijah Mutua, a seasoned investigator with Nairobi's Directorate of Criminal Investigations, DCI, had seen his fair share of violent crimes. But something about the Nigerian man's murder unsettled him. It wasn't just the savagery of it. It was the orchestration, the precision. This wasn't a crime of rage. This was a premeditated ambush. Within 24 hours of the discovery of Son's body, Mutua had his team combing through CCTV footage from the nearby junctions, markets, and gas stations. He knew that in Nairobi, eyes were everywhere, even if most were broken or outdated. Then came a break. At 6:13 p.m., the night before Son's murder, footage from a small electronics shop 2 streets away showed Aking, accompanied by 2 men, purchasing duct tape, a new SIM card, disposable gloves, and, chillingly, a roll of black plastic sheeting. She was smiling in the video. She looked like any other customer. Meanwhile, Son's body was transferred to City Mortuary, and the Nigerian High Commission was informed. His fingerprints confirmed his identity. His passport, wallet, and phone were never recovered, likely taken to slow down identification and delay diplomatic noise. Word began to spread in both countries. In Lagos, social media erupted. Young Nigerian man murdered by online lover in Nairobi. Beware of foreign traps. Love isn't always real. Toyin, Son's younger sister, broke down on live television. He just wanted love, she sobbed. He didn't deserve this. As the investigation widened, DCI dug into Aking's background. Her real name? Faith Wanjiku, born in Kisumu County, Western Kenya. She had changed her identity 3 years prior after being arrested in a romance scam ring targeting European tourists. She was never convicted, evidence mysteriously disappeared, but her criminal record included charges of fraud, theft, and attempted extortion. This wasn't her first victim, and police feared it wouldn't be her last. They identified one of the accomplices from the electronic store footage. Brian Mwangi, age 29, previously arrested for armed robbery and illegal arms possession. He had gone underground after skipping bail. A national manhunt was launched. The story dominated headlines across Kenya. Faith's face was everywhere: TV, newspapers, social media. Her last known location? A bus terminal near Ngong Road, where she bought a ticket under a fake name. Her destination? No one knew. Back in Kaole, neighbors recalled subtle but telling details. Faith had lived in the apartment for less than 3 months. She told people she was in transition and often brought different men to the house. Foreigners mostly. Nigerians. Ugandans. A South African once. Most stayed only a day or two. Now it seemed likely that Sohn was not her first visitor. Just the first to be murdered. Detective Muchua began building a profile. This wasn't a lone woman driven by desperation. This was a predator. A woman who lured men with intimacy, softened them with false affection, and then turned them into prey. Why did Sohn have to die? The answer was becoming clearer. He fought back, and in doing so, he disrupted the plan. Interpol got involved. Alerts were sent to border stations. Kenyan police feared she might try to escape into Tanzania or Uganda. But for now, Faith had disappeared like vapor. The only thing left behind were her lies, and the blood-stained room where a Nigerian man, dreaming of love, had bled out on a foreign floor. The disappearance of Faith Wanjiku, now publicly labeled the Nairobi Black Widow by East African tabloids, ignited a furious manhunt stretching across the region. Her photo, a haunting close-up of the same face that once smiled into Sohn's camera, was plastered on television screens, border posts, bus stations, and even on social media reward posters. $10,000 Kenyan shilling reward. Wanted for murder. Armed and dangerous. Detective Elijah Muchua wasn't about to let this one slip through the cracks. He knew from experience. Time was everything. The longer she stayed hidden, the more likely she'd vanish permanently. His first breakthrough came from a digital trail. Using cell tower triangulation, investigators traced Brian Mwangi's phone activity. The day after Sohn's murder, Brian had used a new SIM card to call a known contact in Eldoret, a bustling city northwest of Nairobi, just a few hours' drive from the Ugandan border. DCI deployed a small tactical unit, and within 48 hours, Brian was arrested at a small hostel operating under a false name, Simon Kibbet. At first, he denied everything, but the evidence was overwhelming. Receipts from the electronics shop, witness accounts, and most damning, bloodstains on his boots that matched Sohn's DNA. Faced with a mountain of evidence and the threat of life imprisonment, Brian cracked. "I didn't want to kill him," he said. "It was just supposed to be a robbery." Then he dropped the name they had been chasing for days. Faith lost control. She panicked. She thought he recognized her real name. That's why she stabbed him. According to Brian's confession, the plan had been simple. Lure Sohn to Nairobi. Drug him. Strip him of valuables. Clean out his bank account. Leave him alive but shaken. It had worked with 3 other men, all foreigners, none of whom reported the crimes out of embarrassment. But Sohn had fought back. He noticed his wallet missing. He refused the second drink. He reached for his phone, suspected something. Aching. Faith. Panicked, screamed, called Brian and another accomplice for help. In the struggle, Faith grabbed a kitchen knife and slashed Sohn's throat while he was pinned down. Then, the trio spent the next few hours trying to clean the mess before fleeing. They took his belongings, changed clothes, and separated at the bus station. Faith's plan was to disappear toward Mombasa, and from there, possibly catch a boat toward Zanzibar or Tanzania. The arrest of Brian gave Muchua a new lead. He immediately alerted Mombasa authorities and circulated Faith's face along the Likoni ferry, Moi International Airport, and bus depots. The public had turned on her quickly. A woman once praised online for her beauty and charm was now vilified as the embodiment of betrayal. The Kenyan public demanded justice, not just for Sohn, but for the nation's image, stained by her cruelty. Faith's Instagram, once filled with filtered photos, travel quotes, and flirty captions, became a battlefield. Hundreds of comments poured in. Murderer, blood on your hands. He trusted you. Now he's in the ground. A week passed, then another. No sign of her. People began to wonder, had she escaped for good? But then, on the 12th day after the murder, Detective Muchua's phone rang. A call from a retired police officer in Twapa, just outside Mombasa. He'd spotted a woman working under the name Lillian, selling sandals at a roadside stall. She looked familiar, too familiar. She wore a scarf and sunglasses. But he was sure. Muchua dispatched a plainclothes team. By sundown, Faith Wanjiku was in custody. The arrest was swift. She didn't resist. She wore a fake ID, had bleached her hair, and was sleeping in a shared shack near the beach. In her bag were Sohn's SIM card, 2 stolen phones, and a wad of Kenyan currency, about 75,000 shillings. At the Nairobi Central Police Station, Faith said only 5 words when questioned. I didn't mean to kill him, but to Sohn's family and the Nigerian public watching from afar, those words meant nothing. Faith was formally charged with first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit robbery, and identity fraud. Her trial would be one of the most followed criminal cases in East Africa in over a decade. But for now, the Nairobi trap had been shut, and the woman who built it was finally caged. The courtroom in Milimani Law Courts, Nairobi, was packed. Journalists lined the aisles, cameras flashing as the bailiffs led Faith Wanjiku, dressed in a gray prison sweatshirt and braided hair undone, into the dock. Gone was the flirtatious, filtered image of the woman who had lured a Nigerian man across the continent. In her place stood a murder suspect, cold-eyed and expressionless. The world was watching. The state versus Faith Wanjiku began just 3 months after her arrest, an unusually fast turnaround for a capital case. Prosecutors, led by Senior State Counsel Grace Ndung'u, were determined to send a message, not just to the people of Kenya, but across borders. Justice would not be delayed. Her charges: first-degree murder of Oluwaseun Adeyemi, conspiracy to commit aggravated robbery, identity fraud, obstruction of justice. If convicted, Faith faced life imprisonment without parole. In the opening statement, Prosecutor Ndung'u didn't mince words. This was not an act of passion. It was a calculated ambush. The accused built a relationship based on lies, lured a man across international borders, and then slaughtered him in cold blood. She laid out the timeline with surgical precision. Digital forensic data showed 6 months of online communication between Sohn and Faith, under the alias Aking. CCTV footage of Faith and 2 male accomplices purchasing duct tape and gloves. Receipts from a Nairobi electronics store, time-stamped just hours before the murder. Testimony from co-accused Brian Mwangi, who detailed the entire plot. Forensic evidence. Sohn's blood found on Faith's clothes, under her fingernails, and on her knife, recovered during her arrest in Twapa. A hush fell over the courtroom as photos from the crime scene were displayed on a projector. Blood-stained mattress, duct tape, the bound body, the knife. Toyin Adeyemi, Sohn's sister, wept silently from the gallery. Faith's court-appointed lawyer, Mwangi Mbatha, attempted a desperate counter-argument. He claimed Faith was manipulated by the 2 male accomplices, that she feared for her life, that she never intended for Sohn to die, that the robbery was the men's idea, and that the killing was spontaneous. She is guilty of poor choices, perhaps fraud, but not murder, he insisted. She was caught in a situation that spiraled beyond her control. But his words were drowned out by the mountain of evidence, and by Faith's own behavior. She showed no remorse, no apology, no emotion. When Brian Mwangi took the stand, the courtroom leaned in. She planned it all, he said, his voice shaking. She said, This one's coming from Nigeria. Probably has money. We'll hit him fast and clean. He paused. But when he figured out something was wrong, she snapped. She took the knife and... He broke down momentarily. She did it like she had done it before. The implication sent ripples through the courtroom. Could Son have been the first to die, but not the first to be targeted? On the 5th day of the trial, the judge allowed Son's family to make a victim impact statement. Toyin stood, holding a framed photograph of her brother. He wasn't rich. He wasn't foolish. He was just lonely and too trusting, she said through tears. My mother hasn't spoken since the call from the High Commission. My father sits by the door every night, waiting for Son to walk in. But he never will. Her voice cracked. He came here for love, and he left in a box. Silence hung over the courtroom. After 10 days of trial and over 30 witnesses, the judge returned with a verdict. Guilty. On all counts. The judge's closing statement was scathing. This court finds that Ms. Wanjiku weaponized trust, exploited the innocent, and carried out a cold, calculated murder. The pretense of love was a mask for predation. Faith was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Brian Mwangi received 30 years, and the third accomplice, arrested weeks later, was sentenced to 25 years. Son was buried in Lagos beneath a marble gravestone engraved with the words, "He chased love across oceans, but found evil in its place." His case inspired cross-border efforts between Kenya and Nigeria to track online romance scams and raise awareness about digital predators. Faith Wanjiku now spends her days in the women's wing of Langata Maximum Security Prison, known as the most dangerous correctional facility for women in East Africa. She no longer receives letters. No visitors. No more followers. Only time. Endless time.